So does that image on the left look a little familiar? I'm guessing it does. That's your classic brainstorm, a total jumble of ideas that overlap, with huge gaps you don't even see, and teams accidentally working on the same thing. It feels like you're making progress, but it's often just a recipe for a mess. But then, on the right, that's structured clarity. That's where we want to get to. And the bridge between those two states? It's one simple, really elegant principle. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the problem, what I like to call the brainstorming trap. Then we'll introduce the framework itself, MECE, and I'll show you exactly how to build a decision tree. After that, we'll talk about how you can use this as a leadership tool, what pitfalls to watch out for, and we'll wrap up with one solid action you can take with your team, literally first thing Monday morning.
Okay, first up, let's really dig into a pain point that every single one of us has been through. The frustrating, inefficient, and, let's be honest, incomplete brainstorming session.
Let's make this feel real. Just picture a marketing team. Their goal is simple: increase leads. What's the first thing they do? They all jump in a room, grab a whiteboard, and just start throwing ideas out there. It feels creative, it feels like momentum, but what is actually happening in that room?
They end up with a list that looks just like this one. Now, if you really look at it, you can see how messy the thinking is. I mean, improve the website could totally overlap with running ads to the website. And hire more salespeople? That's not even a marketing tactic for lead gen. And you have to wonder, what are they missing? There could be entire channels they haven't even thought of. This right here is a classic non-MECE mess.
So, how do we clean up this kind of messy thinking? Well, we solve it with MECE. It's the go-to tool for consultants to bring structure to pretty much any complex problem you can think of.
MECE. It stands for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Let's just break that down real quick. Mutually exclusive is simple. It means there are no overlaps. Each idea is its own distinct thing. Collectively exhaustive means there are no gaps. You've actually covered all the possible pieces of the puzzle. It's the absolute foundation for breaking any big problem down into clean, manageable chunks.
And this quote just nails the practical side of it. When your plan is truly MECE, you can give one piece to one team and another piece to another team, and you can be confident that they're not going to trip over each other and that every single angle is being covered. It's about clarity of ownership.
So here's where it all comes to life. You use MECE to build what's called a decision tree. Let's take the most classic business problem of all: how to improve profitability. Okay, at the very first level, what drives profit? Only two things: revenue and costs. That's it. It's perfectly MECE. Then you just break down each of those. Revenue is driven by price and volume. Costs are driven by fixed and variable costs. See? Each level is a perfect, clean MECE breakdown, and it takes you from this huge, vague problem to specific levers you can actually pull.
All right, now that we get the principle, let's get practical. How do you actually build and, more importantly, test your own MECE tree?
For any list of options you come up with, you have to ask this question first. Is there any overlap here? Are these things truly separate? So if you're looking at customer acquisition, are paid search and Google Ads two different branches? Of course not, right? One is just a part of the other. This little test for mutual exclusivity is what stops you from creating redundant work and causing confusion.
The second question is the flip side, and it's just as critical. Is anything missing? Have we covered all our bases here? So if you break down your website traffic into just paid and organic, have you forgotten about direct traffic? This test for collective exhaustiveness is your safety net. It protects you from having massive strategic blind spots.
Now, this is really important. MECE isn't just a tool for analysts in a back room. For you as a leader, it's an incredibly powerful framework for managing your team, for coaching, and for driving strategic alignment across the board.
So how do you use it? It's simple. First, you demand this structure. When your team brings you a plan, you ask to see the decision tree behind it. Second, you use it to delegate with total confidence. You can give one branch to one person, another branch to someone else, and you know their work isn't going to collide. And finally, you coach this way of thinking. This is a fundamental skill that will level up the analytical game of your entire organization.
Okay, but like any powerful tool, MECE can be misused. So it's really important to know the common traps people fall into, so you can actually apply this effectively in the real world, which is always a little messy.
You want to watch out for a couple of traps. The first one is false exclusivity. This is when you get bogged down trying to make things perfectly pure from a logic standpoint. Look, the goal is a structure that's useful, not one that's flawless. The second is analysis paralysis. You can't just keep branching forever. Go maybe 3 to 5 levels deep, then you got to stop. But the biggest pitfall of all is making sure your breakdown is actually insightful, which brings me to my next point.
And this is the absolute perfect example of that last trap.
You could, theoretically, break down all of your company's costs by the first letter of the supplier's name. It would be perfectly MECE, absolutely no overlaps, no gaps. But it would be completely and utterly useless for making any kind of strategic decision. Your breakdown has to be insightful. It has to be relevant to the problem you're actually trying to solve.
All right, we've covered the problem, we've covered the framework, and we've covered how to implement it. Now for the most important part, the one thing you can do to put this into practice right away.
This is it. This is your move. The very next time a team brings you a complex problem or a list of recommendations, you ask this one simple question. Show me the decision tree. That single sentence instantly changes the conversation from a random list of ideas to a rigorous, structured analysis. It forces clarity, and it immediately shows you the quality of the thinking behind their proposal.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. When you walk into work next week, what is the one big, complicated, ambiguous problem that your team is wrestling with right now? Start there. But don't brainstorm solutions. Instead, first agree on the MECE structure of the problem itself, because that is how you move from chaos to clarity.